Chapter 32. Abram and Melchizedek. Genesis 14, 1-24. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, that these made war with Bera king of Sodom, and with Birsha king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, and Shebmer king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is in the salt sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zumims in Ham, and the Emims in Shaveh Kiriathim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto Alparan, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is in Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwell in Hazazontamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. With Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner. And these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hubah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the woman also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's deal. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which have delivered thine enemies unto thy hand. And he gave them tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Genesis 14, 1-24. According to John Calvin's reckoning, when the warfare described in Genesis 14 occurred, Ham, Shem, and Japheth were still alive. It was very obvious to at least Shem and Japheth that man's salvation was not in fallen man, but in the promised one to come. They lived to see much evil and little good. We meet in this chapter Melchizedek, the priest of El Elyon, the Most High God, verses 18 and 22, whom Abram calls also Jehovah or Yahweh, verse 22. The reference to Melchizedek in Hebrews 7, 1-3 is both important and unintentionally misleading to casual reading. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abram returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being, by interpretation, King of righteousness, and after that also King of Salem, which is King of peace, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Everything said in this text had reference not to Melchizedek's person, but to his status as God's priest. Many priesthoods then were hereditary, gained by descent from either one's father or mother. The subsequent priesthood of Israel was by male descent from Aaron. There were, of course, other requirements. Melchizedek's priesthood came directly from God, and we are told that none other like it existed apart from the Son of God. He is mentioned in Psalm 110:4. A war occurred between four kings. Amraphel, king of Shemare, a region between Elam and Babylonia, Chedorlaomer, king of Elzam, Arioch, king of Elasar, and Tidal, king of the Goyim, and the 5 kings of the plains. These were the rulers: Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, the king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, or Zoar, verse 2. The battle occurred in the valley of Siddim, which became the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea, verse 3. The cities of the plain had served the eastern kings for 12 years, and in the 13th they rebelled, verse 14. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and his allies came not only to suppress the rebellion, but also to conquer adjacent areas: the Rephaim, the Zuzim, the Emim, the Horites in Mount Seir, and the El Param area. They also conquered En Mishpat, the Amorites, and the Amalekites. They then crushed the 5-king coalition headed by the king of Sodom. The kings fled, and they fell into slime pits in so doing, verses 5 to 10. Taking their booty, the kings of the east went their way. Their booty included Lot and his household and possessions, verses 11 and 12. A man who escaped went to Abram to tell him what had happened to Lot, verse 13. With Abram were 3 Amorites who were in league with him: Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner, verse 13. All 4 men no doubt had friends and relatives among the captives, and we know that Abram did. They combined their forces and went in pursuit, Abram having 318 men under him, verse 14. They divided their forces and attacked by night, and they crushed the enemy and recaptured the spoils, verses 15 and 16, including Lot, his family, and others. The 4 kings had been killed, verse 17. On his return, 2 kings greeted Abram, the king of Sodom, and Melchizedek, the king of Salem. Melchizedek gave to the returning men bread and wine. Although these are now communion elements, their meaning in this context is quick refreshment to weary men, black bread and wine for nourishment. Melchizedek pronounced a blessing on Abram in particular as the deliverer. The king of Sodom asked for his people who had been captured, and he offered the loot to Abram, that is, all the wealth seized from Sodom. Abram refused, stating that he had sworn an oath to God to take nothing. He thus asked only that Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre be allowed to take their portions, and that whatever the soldiers or warriors had eaten be exempted, verses 21 to 24. Abram also gave a tithe of all they had taken to Melchizedek, verse 20, Hebrews 7:2. In verse 13, we are told that the man who had escaped came to, quote, Abram the Hebrew, end quote. The name Hebrew had now attached itself to Abram and his household. To return to Melchizedek, the great priest, he is clearly connected with Jesus Christ in his priesthood. He is also connected with us. We have all been made a royal priesthood by Jesus Christ, Revelation 1:6. We have the privilege of direct access to God in and through the name of Jesus Christ. Our priesthood is without a human ancestry of blood. We do not gain it from our family. It, however, gives us no freedom of action apart from Christ and his law word. We are also introduced to the tithe as an established aspect of the life of faith. The tithe is God's tax and was apparently in existence from the beginning as God's requirement.